No, how have you never heard that, Ghost? Cute. I'm allowed to. You can do by donating, it says. I have to find those videos for Ghost now because I cannot genuinely believe Ghost has never heard that before. Oh, they're so good. They're so funny. But I have even better news than us introducing Ghost to those hysterical videos. It's that we are ready to go with probably one of the runs I have been looking forward to the most. It's time for Clair Obscure Expedition 33 with Etiquette. We will be right back. Don't change the channel.
بشر شئت مكان رحلة
أهلا علي
I'm here now.
شوفي كتبت اسمي.
Save the children. Lasting change starts here.
Hello, everybody. We are back, like I said, with Etiquette, with Clair Obscure, Expedition 33, any percent glitchless. It is time to be French. Etiquette, take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Etiquette. I normally do Pokemon stuff, but I'm here with Clair Obscure Expedition 33. We're going to be doing the glitchless category on story difficulty. We'll talk about the differences between the difficulties and all that kind of stuff as we go. But before we get started, I want to introduce my commentator, Spider C.
Hello, Spider C. I also mostly run Pokemon. In fact, I learned this speedrun for this commentary right here. So,
yeah. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Look.
All right. So yeah, this is Clair Obscure Expedition 33. This game came out back in April, I believe it was, and has kind of been a huge success for the development team as well as, you know, just the gaming community in general. It is a turn-based RPG. Draws a lot of influences from like your classic Final Fantasies, but it also has a lot of action elements to it, namely with the battle mechanics, specifically things like dodges and parries and counterattacks and QuickTime events and stuff like that. So it is a really, really cool sort of change of pace for the genre.
I can't believe Sophie already turned 33. She looks so much younger.
yeah, the interactivity in the combat is so cool. Just having the, I mean, you wouldn't think it given that we both run Pokemon, but like having that extra interaction in fights is so interesting.
And
all right.
yes,
Yeah, it's one of the best ways I have to explain it. Is it is a very rewarding game to get better at. Everything is learnable. So you'll see there, because I have parried the attack successfully, I was able to counter. There's also a free aim. We're not going to use free aim all that much in the run. It's used a lot in the early game to do like a little bit more damage when your counterattacks and base attacks just aren't quite doing enough. As we get later in the game, there's going to be a lot more that we can do with regards to like the skills that we use or the ways that we're building our characters. And those sort of free aim shots aren't going to be as important.
Yeah, they're important early on just to make the math work out. But then, like Etiquette said, once we have actual builds, we can build out to do what we need to do instead of having very limited resources.
Yeah.
May I ask a question as the host and somebody who has put way too many hours into this game? And by that I mean I may or may not have platinumed it.
I can't imagine what you're going through.
I'm fine. When you're referring to the builds that you guys use for the speedrun, how similar are those going to be to some of the meta builds that you would see online at the early stages of the game?
So they're going to be probably a little bit different just because we're mainly trying to make sure that we are not going too far out of the way to get stuff. It's, you know, it ends up being like, oh, is it worth this 45-second detour to grab this one Pictos to sort of help our build, or should we just work around it? The story, like the story difficulty run that I'm doing here, goes out of its way for almost nothing. So we kind of make do with what's on the path. And so like early game, it's going to be a lot of burning our target and then using critical burn to try to eke out as many critical hits as we can. The expert run obviously needs a little bit more help when it comes to damage output. And so it can afford to go out of the way a little bit more. There's like a 1 minute detour, I want to say, on the expert route that just isn't worth it on story, but is like super important. It was almost one of the first things routed on the expert side.
Super cool.
That's a nice check on my head.
I played a lot of this game. There's like 2 things I got left to do, and that's about it. And I just haven't had time to go back and do it.
I feel you there. All right, yeah, so we are getting through the prologue here. Story-wise, if you've not played this game or know nothing about the story, this run obviously will include spoilers, so I apologize. I'll try not to spoil too many things.
You might think.
Yeah, it's not too bad. But I will try not to spoil anything like in the future, if that makes sense. But basically, the prologue here, we are in this town called Lumiere. And Lumiere has a yearly event called the Gamage that we learn is basically anybody who is at or above a certain age gets basically just disintegrated on command. And so the city always sends out an expedition force. That's Expedition 33 is the current one. And Gustav, who's our main character here, is one of the members going on to Expedition 33. And that is essentially where we're at right now. These cutscenes that we're skipping are Expedition going off, these really cool motivational speeches. And then as soon as the expedition lands on the beach, it gets absolutely destroyed by one old guy. And everyone is very worried because no one should be old, because everyone over 33 has just been poofed away. But here's this man who is very clearly over the age of 33 who just destroys the expedition for some reason. So Gustav is the only survivor that we know of at this point in time. And so he is going to make his way through the Spring Meadows.
And so here's our first fight with what's the large portion of our enemies of Neveron, which are just the enemies that inhabit the continent. And there's a lot of different varieties of enemies in this game, which is one of the things that's really cool about it. And they all have different attack patterns and whatnot, so as you are learning the game both as the speedrun and casually, a lot of it is learning what different enemies do when, and how to deal with their attacks. Which, like, goes back to what Etiquette said earlier about the game being very rewarding to not only run, but just play.
Yeah, I know casually there were some boss battles that took me like probably like an hour and a half to just get through. The final time I got through the fight, like at the end of every battle, we're going to be skipping ahead of those, but there's like a stat screen where it tells you how much damage you did, how much damage you received, and how long the battle took. And I definitely can think of one battle that took me multiple hours to beat. And when I finally did it, my like in battle time was something like 28 minutes. And I'm like, it's just figuring your way through these battles is really cool. Obviously for the speedrun, everything is routed out, but the routing process is also pretty neat. So here's Lune. Lune is one of the expedition members. She actually did survive. So we're going to go ahead and bring her into the party here. This also introduces the first time we have multiple party members. You briefly had it during the prologue where we were playing as Sophie. While you are with multiple party members, you can switch between them, which is really cool. If you like running with somebody in particular, you can do that. The running speed for everyone is the same. So it really comes down to preference. For the most part, there's one character that is larger than everybody that I try to avoid using them because they take up more of the screen. And then some bits of movement I will use another character specifically just because that's how I learned the movement and it's more comfortable. Movement is actually a really big part of this game. There's lots of ways that you can lose time and lots of little cool things that you can do to save time. So we're actually going to do one of those here.
Is that a house?
There we go.
Looks abandoned.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of out of bounds in this game. What I just did there is not considered out of bounds. That is considered an inbounds trick.
Yeah.
If it was out of bounds, it would not be allowed in glitchless.
Indigo trees over there.
Glitchless is basically what you would expect. No out of bounds. There is a certain glitch you can do with the stat screen to give yourself way more stats than you're supposed to have. There's like save warping and all sorts of stuff. So none of that's allowed here. This is purely a glitchless run. But little things like that are more considered like movement choices as opposed to glitches. We're gonna have another one of those coming up after this fight.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Also, it's just a note that somebody pointed out to me a while ago since we were talking about the movement speed. If you are sensitive to sound, Lune has no footstep noises because she doesn't walk, she flies.
Yes.
Yes, I've mostly moved around with Lune when I was playing casually because of that.
No trees.
Everybody else has big heavy
Something's
footsteps. Lune
disrupting
is
the
just like,
chroma around
nope, I'm a
here.
fairy.
Be careful.
Everyone else has big heavy footsteps and they'll like occasionally like grunt or like heavy breathe or stuff like
Yes.
that. And so it's, yeah, it definitely can be preferable to just run with Lune, who's just sitting here floating.
Someone came here before and set up these handholds.
All right.
But she does still get caught on the terrain the same as everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
Let's thank them
There
for
you go.
that.
Right there. The true final boss.
That one rock? Yeah.
Yeah.
Expedition.
There's so many little things on the ground that you'll stumble on. You'll see me jump in random spots. It is mostly just to avoid things on the ground. Not necessarily because it's faster.
Flares.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this Pictos here. And then, Spider, if you want to explain, I guess, what Pictos are and then what we're doing specifically on this menu.
Yeah, so Pictos are little upgrades that we can put into our characters in addition to the weapons that we can pick up for them. Each character has 3 slots for Pictos, and then once you've used a Picto 4 times in a fight, it gets converted to a Lumina, and every character can have any number of Lumina equipped as long as they have the points to do so. And so what Etiquette did there is just equipped some of the Pictos that we've picked up so far that'll be useful in the fights, upgraded stats to give more strength, so more damage in the fights, and then as well as unlocking some new skills that will be useful right away, starting with our first boss.
Yeah, so this is Yvek. Yvek is the optimal way to play Yvek involves getting a critical hit on a particular turn, which sounds worse than it is, but it is still pretty bad. So I'm going to go for that. If it doesn't work, then it's not a big deal. Basically, Avec has an enrage phase that happens when it gets knocked below like 30% health. So we want to go from above 30% to dead in a single hit.
Yeah, and the one specific crit that we're looking for is actually aided by one of the pictos that we picked up, which is critical burn, which if a enemy is burning, which we keep Avec burning, for this exact reason, and just for the extra chip damage, it drastically raises the crit chance. So that crit that we're looking for is about a 45%.
Alright, we are getting interesting targets. So every time that we parry, we get AP. And the move that Gustav needs to use is 4 AP, which he is not going to get. So this, I think, even with a crit, isn't going to get the KO. Didn't get the crit anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, that was just some unfortunate targeting. Avec has that spell attack, which that spell attack targets both party members, and so it's kind of preferable in terms of AP generation to have that happen.
Yeah, some fights can go a little off the rails depending on how the enemies target you, especially in their earlier fights.
I'll do it.
Yeah, the single targets are best for damage, so this is actually pretty good. See, that did a lot. If I get another single target here, it should finish him off. Yeah, that did it.
Nice.
Looks like he has a little left, but there's a cutscene at the end. So it's more of a health trigger than anything else. Alright, and that is the first boss down. Like Spider was saying, especially like in the early game, you kind of have to... We have like a general script that we're following for the fights, but depending on who gets targeted, depending on if you crit or don't crit, you can have a lot of different things that happen. There's generally like, here's the standard, here's the best case, and then if you get the worst case, you kind of have to figure out what to do. Once we get later into the game, especially in Act 2, like about halfway through Act 2, every fight becomes like very scripted with what happens. And so generally if you like don't KO for some reason, it's most likely because you did something wrong as opposed to the fight having something happen. So it's a bit of an interesting game when it comes to like learning because of that. Right. So this is the world map. This is the continent. And we're going to make our way into Flying Waters here. Flying Waters is the second area, and it's where we're actually going to get our second, or I guess technically our third party member, about halfway through. And while we're here, we're going to get introduced to a few more Neverons, but there are no more of those sort of mandatory fights that sort of got thrown onto us as a tutorial. All right, this bit of movement is not even necessary to do. Just gonna go around.
Yeah, when I was learning a couple of these shortcuts, I'm like, I'm just gonna go around.
An advantage.
So we're picking up a little bit of chroma. Chroma is kind of like the currency of the game.
Looks like
There's a few things that we need to buy
Doesn't matter.
throughout
They're
the
between
run
us and my
at the Gestural Merchants.
Be careful.
So it's just a matter of grabbing the necessary items. The other things that you'll see me pick up, obviously I've picked up some Pictos as we've been going. I picked up a Color of Lumina. Color of Lumina is how you can increase the amount of Lumina points that a character has, which Spider was mentioning. You can equip as many Lumina as you want as long as you have points for them.
Slow down. We don't know
So by default, you gain 1 point per level. So if you need any more, you need to use Colors of Lumina. And then the final thing that you'll see me pick up occasionally are chroma catalysts, which are the ways that you upgrade your weapons. Yes, we went from an underwater place to a manor. Don't worry about it.
Do that a few times. Nothing to be concerned about.
And there's our new party member right there. So here's Mayel. Mayel is Gustav's adoptive sister.
How did you find me?
And we're going to go ahead and do, hopefully, a little bit of a cool trick. Okay. It worked, but I did kind of mess it up. Alright.
So 2 things just happened there. The first one is that Etiquette managed to pause while still moving, so the character's finished moving while he was in his pause menu, doing some of the menu party changes that he needed to before the next fight. And then the other thing that he just did is he reloaded the game, and the reason for that is because there was a patch that changed it so you can no longer talk to flags while there is dialogue playing. And since we're playing on console, which is the latest patch, it's actually faster to reload a save file to talk to the flag rather than just wait for the dialogue to finish.
Take him down.
Alright. So this here is Curator. Curator is going to kind of be like our weapon upgrader throughout the run. This battle serves as a tutorial for jump attacks. For jump attacks, you do not parry as normal. You instead have to jump at the appropriate time. And while you are in the air, you can hit another button to do a bit of damage to the enemy. It does not generate AP, which is kind of a nuisance, depending on the fight that you're in. There is a Pictos that allows it to generate AP, but we're not going to be grabbing that. And the strategy we used on that fight is kind of
There's a path through
like half of the strategy that we're going to use for the early game. Mayel's gimmick is that she has different stances. And you can use moves at certain times to move her into the different stances. She has stanceless, which is no modifiers, defensive stance, which gives her more defense, offensive stance, which gives her more offense at the side effect of having less defense, and then virtuose stance, which is far more offensive stance, basically. When you're in virtuose stance, you deal 3 times as much damage as you normally would. So a lot of fights are going to center around getting Mayel into virtuose stance and then doing a ton of damage with that per se attack.
So many.
I should have disclaimed at the start. If I'm pronouncing any French words wrong, I apologize. I am not French.
This one is
I know how to say some of them if you would ever like help.
Okay.
And then even then, I'm still wrong.
Yeah, that's
absolutely no help. So
where's Quo?
Exactly. Yeah, so that Percy attack does a ton of damage, specifically to marked targets. Marked targets normally give, I think it's like 50% more damage, but with this move in particular, it's like 2x or even more. And then the move also has the added benefit of if you are in virtuose stance, it costs 2 AP as opposed to 5 AP. So it is really, really cool. One of the moves that we learned while we were in the manor is a move called Swift Stride, which puts us in virtuose stance if the target is burning. And so now you can kind of see all of the different things sort of playing together, where we're going to use Lune to burn our opponent. Gustav is going to set up a powerful. If you know Pokemon, it's like an X attack. We're going to go Swift Stride, which is going to put us in virtuose stance. And then next round of attacks, we're going to set up Marking Shot to mark the target and then use Percy. And you're going to see these numbers that are in like the tens and even the hundreds a little bit. You're going to see quite a large number instead.
Take him down.
Yeah. So that crit right there specifically is very good.
Yes.
that basically means we're going to have the best version of this fight.
Yeah, getting or missing crits on early fights, as we said, is a game changer. But for Go Blue especially, you miss your crits, it's definitely delaying the fight by quite a bit.
Alright. So we stun Go Blue. Go Blue has this trigger where he will throw flowers, and then if after I think it's 2 turns, he'll absorb the flowers, which gives him like a bunch of shields or offense boost as well. But because we stunned him, he didn't get that off.
I love. This is also a boss with fantastic music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have the answer.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it involves the one French sound that I can't physically do. Like, I just can't do it. It's like the back of the throat H sound. But it's
Okay.
Perce is the closest. Perce.
Trust him.
And it just translates to pierce.
Thank you for the investigative journalism.
I just... In our chat, Quo, his first language is French, so I just pinged him. I was like,
yeah.
How do we say this word?
That's funny.
Because it's like I've heard all of the funny pronunciations, and I'm like, how do we? It's an arch.
Noko's not great at specifics.
So
We'll just have to think like gestures.
I studied a different language in college, and that entire language is spoken at the front of the mouth essentially. So I can't anything that has like you have to use the back of your mouth for other than like rolled R's. I cannot do.
Gotcha.
Sounds like you're choking on your tongue to me, Quo. I don't know how you make that sound.
All right. So heading into Ancient Sanctuary here. So while we were in Flying Waters, we got introduced to Gestrels. Gestrels are really, really cool characters. Unfortunately, we're not going to see a lot of them in the run. But basically suggests that we go to the Ancient Gestrel Village to get access to Eskie, who is going to be our ticket to get across water. So we have to go through this area. These are called Sakapatats. That's not the right move. There we go. And they are essentially meant to be the like protectors of the area. No one is supposed to be able to defeat them. There are a bunch of them all over the place, and we're going to defeat, well, the 2 mandatory ones at the very least. But you can kind of see the strategies here are effectively the same. It's burn the target, set up a powerful, put Mael into Virtuose stance, mark the target, and then hit him with the Percy. Oh, sorry, Percy.
Percy. Yeah,
Percy.
that's closer than I got.
Close. Close.
I love that the name of this enemy is literally sack of potatoes. It is my favorite.
It really is.
These things are fascinating.
How do they even stand?
Yeah. So we're gonna make our way through here. The second one we're gonna face is quite a bit more strong, quite a bit stronger. And it is another one of these fights where a well-timed critical hit will save 30 seconds. After this point, the well-timed critical hits aren't going to save nearly as much time, but it is a bit of a tough early game, to say the least, when it comes to RNG. Then we're going to do a bit more menuing here. We finally learned some Lumina. We've had the Pictos equipped for 4 battles, so we're going to go ahead and equip both Critical Burn and Dead Energy on Lune and Gustav. All right.
Take cover.
So pretty similar strategy here. The only difference is going to be on Lune's second turn. If you do too much damage to this guy, he's going to put up a shield. And so we're actually going to
Brace yourself.
dodge the next attack to not deal too much damage, and then Lune is going to break the shield.
Yeah, a lot of enemies have weak points that if you shoot, they'll do extra damage. This one's a bit interesting in that it both has a weak point that does extra damage, and it gets rid of his shield, so it completely changes some of his attack patterns.
Yeah, but you specifically need to do those free aim shots with
Take him down.
with Lune, because her weapon is fire-based, and the Sakvatat is weak to fire. So he has a different stagger animation. So, unlucky I didn't get the one crit. That would have helped. But...
For those who come up.
It's okay, it just means we get to watch more of the game.
Exactly.
Hear more of the music.
This game has a banging soundtrack, dude.
I normally notice music all that much when I'm playing games, which is weird to a lot of people, but this one is so good. Even I noticed it.
Now we've gone through the Sanctuary, we have access to the Gestural Village. Once we're in the Gestural Village, we are going to go ahead and teach Mayel Rain of Fire, which is kind of like her own way to set up fire. So after this point, we're really not going to need Lune too much. And we also get access to the Gestural Tournament, which is a set of one-on-one battles. And we essentially have to win the Gestural Tournament in order for the Gestural Chief, Golgara, to believe that we are powerful enough to ask SKA for help, which is
really a village
kind of odd, but it's fine.
They seem better at surviving than humans.
I guess intelligence is not a prerequisite.
There's so
We need to get...
And given that we've been using her for most of our damage, it's unsurprising that in these one-on-one tournaments we will be using Mayel.
Why?
Yeah. We would use her either way, I think, but there also is another very specific reason we're using her and no one else. Basically, the winner of the tournament gets a special weapon, and I believe everyone's weapon is obtainable in other ways, but Mayel's is not obtainable for a long, long time, and it is a very good weapon.
It is not obtainable until Act 3.
Yeah.
So you can get the rest of the weapons you would get here in Act 3 by fighting Golgara again. So the optional Golgara fights is where you get them.
So here's Rain of Fire. You see we're doing quite a bit of damage. Each one of these Gestural Tournament fights is going to be identical. The only real variance is their attack animations are different, so you just have to learn different attacks. All of them, if we get a single crit on any counter or either hit of Rain of Fire, we save half a turn. So there, I just saved half a turn. You get 0 crits, which all these crits are aided by critical burn and everything. Then you have to do one more attack after this counter. And I agree with the comment in chat. This game is so good. If you have not played it, you should.
Absolutely.
I got the crit on the last counter. Look at that.
Let's go. This is so cool.
All right. So we also got told at the introduction of the Gestural Tournament that there is a secret mystery. Sorry, I had to counter. A mystery tournament champion who ends up being CL, who is one of the expedition members. So we're gonna go ahead and defeat her. This battle you can lose, but if you lose, you get CL's special weapon and not Mayel's special weapon. So you really want to make sure that you're winning that.
That fight's really funny because we apply a burn to CL, with our normal strategy, and then a lot of times she'll go for a rush, which makes her act again, and then because of the way the math works out on turns, she just dies.
She dies of the burn, yeah. All right. So this is a small deviation from what anybody else does on story mode. I'm going to be buying Critical Moment here. It's not going to be useful for a very long time, but one of the current patch differences is a particular move was nerfed in one of the patches. And this move isn't going to be relevant for a while. We're not even going to talk about it until probably like an hour and a half into the run. But it is essentially the strategy for the end game. And so when you're down patching and you do more damage with that one move that has not been nerfed, you don't need to worry about Critical Moment, but it's just a little bit more consistent to do it the way I'm doing it here. The Critical Moment strategy specifically, I ripped basically from the Expert route, but it ends up more or less breaking even with the other strategy, but it's just far more consistent. So
let's head east to SKA's nest.
Yeah, because of that, I lose like 20 to 25 seconds on this split alone, which feels bad, and then you save it all back later. All right, so we're gonna go ahead into SKA's nest, and we're going to do a bit of menuing here as well. And I need to not do something because I did a run earlier today and it did not work the way I thought. So I'm not going to modify my party yet. And then we're going to upgrade CL. CL is going to have a lot of attack, and then we're going to learn a bunch of moves with her. The main thing we're getting to here with moves on CL is this move called Fortune's Fury. It is a move that can be used on an ally, and that ally's next attack will do double damage.
Their next entire turn, right? Or is it just the attack?
Oh yeah, it's the next entire turn. You're right.
Because that's a very slight, but still critical difference.
Yes. Well, it's interesting too, because like, it's a relevant distinction because like the Pictos that we get for this boss coming up here is augmented first strike, which basically the first attack, like the first hit you do in battle is 50% more powerful. But it's just that it is the first hit you do. It could be a counter attack. It could be the first hit of a multi-hit move. It is not your first attack in general. But yeah, Fortune's Fury is the entire turn is double damage. So we just met SKA. SKA is going to be our basic like mode of transportation in the overworld. He is fast. He can break rocks. He's going to be able to swim. And in order for him to help us out, we need to go fetch him his lost rock.
You okay, Sia?
And he believes that his rock has been stolen by his arch nemesis, Francois. Who, we're skipping all the cutscenes, but this whole section is great if you've never seen it. And don't get baited like I did and think that this is a joke, the strongest ice attack ever. It actually is. Don't get hit by it. It hurts.
This is very strong.
Let us stay.
Take him down. So you'll notice Mael is already in Virtuose stance, and that is because her weapon, the Medallum, that we just got from the Gestural Tournament, always starts her in Virtuose stance. And so that is going to be a very, very, very important thing for us. We no longer have to set up Virtuose to get a lot of damage out of her. She can just do it right off the bat. And because her main damage dealing is going to be with Rain of Fire, at least for this section of the game,
If not,
she's going to be able to set herself back into Virtuose stance by using Swift Stride. So Lune is, unfortunately, no longer going to be relevant. It is worth mentioning, Lune is actually super important on the Expert route. She has an attack that can deal a lot of hits. We haven't seen it yet, but there is a damage cap in this game. So we cannot do over 10k damage. And so it becomes less about how much damage can I do in a single hit, like Percy, and more about how many hits can I do. And so Lune has a move that can do up to 12 hits if you do it right, but it does rely on getting a lot of critical hits, which involves a lot of setup, which is just not something the story route really needs. It can get by without it. I'm going to pick up Energizing Start 3. It is slightly faster to use the flag at the end of SKA's nest to warp back to the start. But because we need Energizing Start, it's just better for us to run back. There is one of those like cool inbounds but looks out of bounds movements to get to Energizing Start. That is very difficult. But it also isn't even all that worth it on console because during the fast travel, the time is still moving. We don't have the load remover for console. So, ends up not being worth it.
Nice.
Do a bit of movement here. Pick up a few things, and then we're going to head into the... Well, actually, we're going to do a forced camp first, and then we're going to go into the Stone Wave Cliffs. I think I grabbed all the stuff.
Yeah, that was everything.
I have been known to not pick up one of the chromas and then notice in 20 minutes when I try to buy something. Alright, so we're going to upgrade the Metallum to 7. Like the one time, it's the first option and not the second option. Alright, Stonewave Cliffs is like the first, I'd consider scary-ish section of the run when it comes to movement. At the end of the section is probably the first boss that I truly struggled with on my first playthrough. And there's a lot of stuff for us to pick up as we're going through here.
Yeah, there's a number of Pictos that are scattered around this area, even some that we're not getting, that are very good.
Yes.
Which makes sense because it is the final area of Act 1.
Alright, so I'm going to grab this.
Well, that will help.
And then we're going to go up. This is the only instance of us using one of these in the run. Every area, or almost every area, has these lock cages where you have to shoot 3 locks scattered around the area. So I'm going to go ahead and that. Pick up the Delaram. Delaram is a really cool weapon, which I'm not going to explain what it does yet because it doesn't actually take its effect yet, technically. But we're not going to be using it anyways for this next fight. But that is a Gustav weapon, I should say. Main reason we're not using it for the next fight is because it is... Even though it is more powerful than our current weapon, it is not... the type affinity it has is not very effective against the boss at the end of this area. So we end up doing roughly the same amount of damage, so it's not worth the time it takes to equip it. But there's First Strike. First Strike is a very powerful Pictos. It basically gives us the ability to go first in battle. And so we're going to immediately equip it on people, and once we've learned it, it will be equipped on everybody. And then I'm going to do some fancy movement here. Hopefully I get it. Just
built her a shrine.
The weak-minded turn to whatever they can to explain the unknown.
When you're
Nice.
at the mercy
Nice,
of
that was
people
clean.
who understand.
Yeah, you can just go around and come up this thing over to the right. We need that SOS power Pictos. That's going to give us that powerful effect once we go below 50% health. And later on, we're going to have ways to intentionally put ourselves at low health So that'll get triggered, and it will be really convenient. Some more pickups.
An advantage.
I think I'm going to do my menu during the hallway, so I get the save right before Lampmaster.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you tend to get some autosaves when you do party menus, and so doing them right before a boss can be helpful if something does go wrong.
Oh. And it's actually, so I started running this game on PC, and so I took advantage of like the ability to use both the controller and keyboard and mouse for some sections, and specifically getting the Delaram with the lock cages, I like could not do on console to save my life. Or not on console, on controller. And I'm currently playing on PS5. My PC's having some issues running the game while I record. But, you know, it's just as finicky, and I like could not do the lock cages. So at this point in the run, I'm going to go ahead and remove the keyboard and mouse I have on my desk that I only have hooked up to my PlayStation 5. Look at that, no time lost. That way I don't accidentally go to type something on that keyboard. That happens so much. Or I'll like try to scroll down to my notes and I'll grab the wrong mouse. Alright. Alright, final stretch here.
Useful.
And then big menu.
Glory is over there.
No. Get rid of you. Add you. That. That. Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into those menus, both in terms of making sure you have all your Pictos equipped to the correct people, but then also just equipping Pictos that you want to turn into Lumina later, having your party in the right order, and yeah, it's really impressive to see those done fast.
Yeah. And it's like the big thing that we're doing in that menu, obviously like we're trying to make sure everyone has the right Pictos. Like I want CL to go first so she gets first strike, right? But it's also about like, oh wow, that did a lot.
That did a lot.
It's also about like all of those Pictos have passive stat things that happen. And so a lot of the ones that we're using give us a certain amount of speed. And so we are, this is a really interesting way that this fight's going. They all give us like a certain amount of speed. And so we're also playing with speed stats to make sure people are going in the right order after the first turn, and like, it's just a whole thing.
Yeah, and that actually is one other thing that's different between Pictos and Luminas, is that Pictos have associated base stats, while Lumina only apply their effect. So if we need those stats, then even after we convert them, we might want to keep them as Pictos.
Yeah. Alright, so it's important that I get the Swift Stride off, because Lampmaster loses his burn on the phase transition. I'm like pausing in between every sentence I have.
And I'm afraid to talk whatever you're
doing. It's such a
this,
weird,
so.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's such a funny thing, because it's like, I need to focus. But yeah, it was really good. Usually I get the phase transition on the counter after Swift Stride. But because Lampmaster loses the burn, when you want to get the Swift Stride off before.
Yeah, the two initial crits at the start of the fight made Lampmaster phase 1 go way faster than it normally does.
I think this will send it. Oh, not quite. That's fine. All right. So that is the end of Lampmaster. That is the end of Act 1. And so SDAT does find his special rock that allows him to swim.
We should be on the same side.
However,
Let her go.
we do get some unfortunate news at the end of Act 1 here.
Something's going on up there. SDAT, get us up there!
No, there's no Act 3. I know that was something that I got scared about. When I see this, or not Act 3, sorry, Phase 3.
Landmaster Phase 3.
Because it's the first Phase 2 boss even, in the entire game, and then they hit you with this like fake out Phase 3, and you're like, wait a minute, what is happening? All right. And so now we are definitely still Gustav. Certainly not any other character right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, whoops. Let's see. But yeah, we have Verso. Verso fills pretty much the same role that Gustav did. Pretty strong melee attacker, uses all the same weapons, and in fact has everything that was equipped on Gustav is now equipped on Verso. So because of that, or actually not because of that specifically, but I need to put First Strike on Mael before we enter this area. This area has a tutorial battle that happens right when you enter. And so I just need to make sure that Mael has First Strike.
And you had some issues with this tutorial.
I did, yes.
Actually.
So we're actually not going to see it in this battle because it's going to end too fast, but this is the battle you get introduced to gradient counters.
Careful.
Basically the screen will go black and white, and instead of hitting R1, you hit R2. The window of time for the counter is a little bit larger.
Any other
But it is essentially it's a non-dodgeable attack. You cannot dodge a gradient attack. You have to parry it. And so when I was first playing this game, I got through Act 1, was like, I really want to do the speedrun of this game. I already know it. I'm going to learn the Act 1 speedrun because there's any percent, but then there's also Act 1 speedruns. So I learned it. And obviously, as part of learning the speedrun, you turn off the battle tutorials because you don't need the battle tutorials. They're just going to waste time. Apparently that is a global setting and not a per save file setting. And so I got to that battle when I resumed my casual playthrough, and the game did not tell me how to gradient counter, and I did not know what this was. And I sat on that fight for like 45 minutes until I Googled black and white attack.
What do?
What do I do?
That's honestly really funny. I'm sorry.
I agree. But it was just... the game wouldn't tell me what to do because I turned it off. Alright. Lots of stuff on the ground to avoid here. We got past the hard part of the section. And here is where we're going to learn if I messed up any of my money pickups, because this is the first shop of the run. We're going to buy some polished chroma catalysts, which are going to allow us to upgrade our weapons,
No sign of your
as well as
special
inverted affinity, which is a really, really cool
we're lucky.
pictos.
Yeah, so Inverted Affinity is a Picto, and the power that that one gives you is that you start every fight inverted, which is a status effect that makes it so whenever you would get healed, you instead take damage. But then, as a side effect, with the Picto, in addition to applying the status, it also makes you do 50% more damage while you are inverted. Since ideally we're not going to be taking hits, that just means that it's all upsides for us.
No, you're supposed to have inverted affinity. You're supposed to have at death stool. I did that wrong. Alright. Alright, and then even though Verso came with everything Gustav had equipped, he does not come with stat distributions, so we have to manually do that, as well as learn some moves. Most important moves that we're learning right here are Defiant Strike and Berserk Slash. Berserk Slash is a move that deals 3 hits and does more damage the lower health that Verso is. Defiant Strike is a move that marks the target, but also removes some of Verso's health. And the Delaram weapon starts you at half health. So now you can see all these things. See, this is why I don't talk. I'm going to actually reload because I don't want to... This fight is really bad to go off script. But yeah, so you can kind of see all these things working together, where it's like Verso is going to go start at half health, use Defiant Strike to go to low health, which is going to boost the Berserk Slash, but is also going to trigger SOS Power as he's below 30% health. And then when we are later on, we're going to have At Death's Door as a Picto, which we do more damage the lower health we are. This fight did go off script. That's fine. Oh, he still is going to go... I was worried he was only going to go once here.
Yeah, we specifically avoid doing one of the jump counter attacks there, just to keep his health thresholds where we want him.
Yeah, if he gets knocked below half health when it's his turn, he casts Inverted on you, which we don't care about. But it's an extra animation that we just don't need. So, that is the end of that fight. And yeah, this strategy is basically what we're going to be doing for the next couple fights. We're using solo Verso on this fight, just because like he's the main damage output at this point in the run. And he can't do a lot if he doesn't get AP. And so instead of having to worry about like, oh, who did Duelist target with his attacks, and try to finagle it that way, we just have one party member is all we need. We're doing enough damage to supplement, and we're guaranteeing that Duelist is going to be attacking Verso specifically. So it's going to be the same way for the next 2 fights. That is a recoat. That is really nice. Recoats are random drops. They allow you to basically completely respec either your moves for one given character or the attributes for a given character. There are 0 guaranteed recoats in the run, but we do want 3 of them by the end of the run. There are backups. Like if we get actually 0, we can still make it work. But obviously it would be at the cost of a bit of time.
Yeah, the first time I finished a run, I got to the end and I had 0 recoats. Thankfully, Etiquette was in the call with me and helped walk me through all the backups. So I was like, what do I do here?
Yeah. All right, I guess almost an hour in is probably a good time to talk about the differences between the difficulties. Just haven't had a good opportunity to sort of explain it. So story is the easiest difficulty. It's the one that we're on currently. The Expeditioner difficulty is kind of like normal mode, is kind of how it is marketed. And the main difference between story and Expeditioner is story has a larger timing window when it comes to dodges and parries. I don't know the exact numbers offhand, but it is, I want to say like over twice as large, the timing window for dodges and parries.
With SDA?
But everything else is basically the same. The damage that you take from enemies may be increased, but like the amount of health that enemies have and all that stuff is the same.
Not far from here.
Between Expeditioner and Expert, the main difference is enemies on Expert have more health and deal more damage. The timing windows are actually the same. So it's kind of like this 3-step thing. if you were like doing this game and struggling on expert because of like parry timings and stuff, going to expeditioner actually doesn't help, which I think trips a lot of people up.
Gustav would have liked to see that.
But on the flip side, if you are someone who wants to learn the game, something that you can do, and something I wish I did, because I wanted to learn expert at some point too, is learn the game and do all your practice on expeditioner difficulty.
They're real too.
Because it'll basically reinforce the correct dodges and parry timing. And then if you ever transition over to expert, like you already know how to dodge and parry things at the correct windows. Whereas if you learn and practice everything on story, like I did, you learn that the actual spot you're supposed to hit the button is not where you have been doing it. All right, here's Minoko. Minoko is going to be our final party member. Just barely.
Yeah, Minoko is different from all the other characters, that instead of having the skill tree that we've been unlocking skills on, the way Minoko gets new skills is he has to be in your party when you defeat a Neveron, and then he will steal their feet, and that gives him new abilities. Which is very cool, but is not particularly great in a speedrun sense, because in order for him to be useful, you need to have him beat enemies, which we want to not necessarily have him in the party, because like Etiquette said, for this fight even, we just want to do exactly what we need to beat it. So like in this case, it's just Verso, and then for a lot of the other fights, our fastest way through is with a specific party that does not include Minoko.
I'll manage.
So this fight teaches us about gradient attacks. So we learned about gradient counters. We still haven't seen one. There's a chance we'll see one on the next boss. But we also have our own versions of gradient attacks. And these are attacks that are really cool. You have to build your gradient charges, like the gradient meter. Every AP that you spend in battle will increase the gradient counter, or the gradient charge meter, whatever it's called. And I believe it's after 20 AP is spent, you gain a level of gradient. And the gradient attacks are really cool because it is effectively like you get 2 turns in one. The first turn you can use the gradient attack, and then you get to immediately go again afterward to do a normal attack. Or if you happen to have like 2 gradient charges, you could gradient attack twice.
Welcome, my friend.
So it is really cool. We're going to be using it quite a bit. Nope. I want to... Wait, why would I... Oh, because I was on the wrong character, that's why. I have the inputs listed for a lot of these menus, and it wasn't matching up because... I got Lune menu because I reset the game on Duelist. Oh, that's really funny. That's not going to make any sense to anybody.
There is an oddity there where when you open your menu, it will change what character you have defaulted, whether or not you have reloaded your game by that point.
Yeah. If you do this all single segment, you will always have Minoko menu, where you basically will start. Every menu will start with Minoko selected. And if you reset your game, I believe specifically like in the section where Lune is your first party member, so after the end of Act 1, until you gain Minoko as a party member, if you reset your game anywhere in there, you will forever be on Lune menu instead. It's very strange.
It's okay, Minoko.
Lune menu is technically better,
shall we?
Because she's just like in the middle of all the characters a little bit better.
How exactly did our piece of Lumiere end up on an
but
island?
it's never
when the rest of the
worth
city is
like
here?
routing in a
One
reset
of the great mysteries.
so that way you get it.
I wish we had more time.
But because my muscle memory is
So
for
much to study
Minoko
here.
stuff, this is gonna be a little interesting.
So, Minoko, What
All right.
was life like before
So
the
this is Old
fracture?
Lumiere story-wise. This is where the Paintress's heart is. It's at the center of Old Lumiere, and so we are on a quest to destroy the Paintress's heart.
The fracture tore our villages apart.
Minoko accidentally blows up, or like destroys a building in the middle of the city, which splits the party in two. So we've got Lune, Ciel, and Minoko with this set of party members with no mandatory battles, so we can just walk by everything. And then Mael and Verso are by themselves over on this side.
Speaking of home, where do you live in Lumiere?
Above a bakery near the center. Angelique's Boulangerie.
I guess we didn't explain who Verso was. So Verso...
I thought we were just talking around, but okay.
Well, no, Verso is a member of the first expedition. So Expedition 33 is actually like the 67th expedition or something. I don't know. And he's actually a member of the first expedition. He, as well as Renoir, who's the old man from the beach, have stopped aging mysteriously. And so he actually knows a lot of stuff about the world and about other expeditions and how they have either succeeded or failed. So we're kind of using him as a guide. But he is a little shady. Like, he just disappeared on Mael for some reason. And then we are going to go into... We were joking about this before we went live, but this is like the hardest part of the game. You want that item.
Nice.
I ping-ponged off the wall there. I thought I was going to get knocked into the enemy, but we got it.
Yeah, that pickup is especially annoying because we only have Mael here, and putting her up against 3 enemies that are fairly fast, actually, does not go well. So if you get that fight, running isn't even an option. You just need to reload your game.
Yeah. You can, like, most battles you can flee from, or at least most bosses you can flee from. Most non-bosses you can flee from. But fleeing is like a kind of a weird mechanic where it's like you need all of your living party members to attempt to flee in order to flee, but if you only have one party member, they have to do it twice. It's kind of convoluted. It's actually going to come up a little bit later, but... Alright, so here is Renoir. And I didn't write it down, but I decided that I'm Defiant Striking in turn 1. There's a gradient attack, so you cannot dodge that. You have to use R2 to counter it. Nice.
That went really well.
I don't even know if I needed those 2 shots to build. Gustav's, we've kind of like skirted around all the different battle mechanics for all the different party members because they aren't, at least up to this point, other than Mael's, they aren't super relevant. But Verso's thing is he has a perfection meter, and as he does things, he gains perfection. And I believe every time he gets hit, he loses perfection. And so... So by doing a couple of extra shots there, you can kind of build his perfection meter a little bit, which is what I was trying to do there, but I don't think it actually mattered. All right. So now SDAT has the ability to swim through coral reefs. One of the ways that they sort of gate you from going too far in the overworld is by adding barriers like these. But now we can go right through them, so we can go effectively anywhere on the ground. There are places in the sky, and there are places underwater that we can't get to, but everywhere else is pretty much fair game. And then story-wise, we have to go defeat the 2 Axons. Axons are much stronger enemies than Neverons. They contain a lot of chroma, and in order to get to the Paintress, we need to... break through her barrier of chroma And the curator knows how to do that, but requires a lot of chroma of his own, basically.
The island singing.
And so we need to defeat the two axons in order to get that.
Me out.
And
Yeah,
this
and
is
both axons. Go ahead.
I was just going to say this is where we kind of like get into our groove with like what our final party composition is going to be and final fight strategies.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is that these, the two areas with the axons have a lot of stuff on the side that might make the fight easier or just give you a lot more pickups or whatnot. In both cases, we pretty much just run right through them. Because at this point, like Etiquette said, we have our party set up that we want. We're good to just go straight to the boss fights.
Yeah, this one's kind of cool. This whole island is basically filled with masks. You can see a lot of the faces on the walls and stuff. I hate this area. It is very unsettling. This is like how some people don't like dolls. Like, this place creeps me out. Like all these faces, like ugh.
These masks.
Anyways,
Ominous.
but yeah, so there are 3 side bosses here that each one represents a different emotion. So there's an anger mask, a sad mask, and a joyful mask. And for every mask that you do not go out of your way to defeat, the boss here is going to get an extra bonus. So like the anger mask, for example, makes him go twice in battle. The joyful mask, I believe, makes him heal you, or will heal the boss, and I forget what the sad mask does.
Debuffs you? I don't remember.
Yes.
I want to say it like casts exhaust.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I did not purchase the stuff, did I? That's fine. Move Lune, add CL. I will fix that. Inverted affinity, critical burn, SOS power, energizing start. I'm just gonna go back into Visage after this fight. So this is another 2-phase battle. We're gonna use our sacrifice. It's a very powerful move, but it basically sucks up all the health from your 2 allies, which of course now they're at low health, so they get all those low health bonuses that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, especially now that we are at we have Death's Door. That along with SOS power, we just want to be at 1 HP, because we never want to get hit, and we get a bunch of bonuses for being at low health.
So CL's going to use Fortune's Fury on herself, which, knowing that this is a 2-phase battle, you can kind of tell it's not going to be used on this phase.
Yeah, and so Fortune's Fury is what really the difference maker is that we mentioned quite a while ago, where it lasts for the entire turn as opposed to for a specific attack. Because now we get to use, when it gets to CL's turn, we get to use her gradient attack, which then it will apply to both her gradient attack and her regular attack if it's needed.
Yeah, so whenever this guy gets a turn, he's going to get to go twice. But what would you say if I told you he didn't get another turn?
Makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, so CL's, I mentioned earlier, at some point we're going to shift away from dealing the most damage that we can to doing the most hits that we can. CL's thing is CL's gradient attack is a 10-hit attack. So all we got to do is build up the gradients, and then let her go, and it does a ton of damage. I don't think we ever actually hit the 9999 on each hit, but if we did, it would be 100,000 damage in a single turn. So, all right, I'm going back here through Visage. I was meant to go to the Gestural Merchant to buy some Resplendent Chroma Catalysts, and I just slipped my mind. So we're gonna quick little detour. It's just I need to upgrade weapons before the next area, so. Big number makes serotonin go up, absolutely. Like we were joking about this on my stream yesterday. But just seeing the a large number of 9s on the screen is a good serotonin rush. So it was like if we ever make a game, we should just have some sort of bias toward damage doing numbers with 9s in them.
It's just hard-coded. Every single attack is just always a multiplier of 9. That's it.
Exactly.
You can never do anything that's not got a 9 at the end.
All right. So now I actually have to camp because I need to upgrade my weapons. All right. So you need to go to 14. And then I need to go to the flag here. There is a flag in Seren, which is the next area we're going to. But it is only accessible while there is dialogue happening, which we cannot do.
Yeah, and upgrading CL's weapon especially is particularly important because we are doing these massive multi-hit ones, so any base damage that we can add to that is just multiplied.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because after the next Axon, we do get so we just upgraded her weapon to level 14. And after the next Axon, we actually get a weapon for her that's level 13. So we could, in theory, just wait and equip that weapon afterward, which is what we actually used to do. But it turns out upgrading her current weapon, so we have it upgraded for this section, just saves a decent number of turns. There's only two fights in this area, but on those 2 fights, it saves enough time to where we just don't bother. Or we would rather have the upgraded weapon now. Right. So this area has all these little UFOs, is what we call them. It's a very strange area. Basically, there is Seren down there, is a dancer. And you can kind of think of her like a siren, if you know. And yeah, this is there are 3-ish sections of the game that have far more running than anything else. And this is the first of those 3 sections. And unfortunately, it is pretty much all of the areas from here on.
This is kind of dancing towards a lumiere.
There are 2 bosses, and one of them breaks up the run. But if that one boss happened to be halfway through the area instead of almost at the end, it'd be so much better.
Yeah, in all of the long-running sections, the game definitely intends you to be fighting these optional fights, but we don't have a reason to do so, so we just run around them all, which then increases the running.
Yeah, it's really funny because the expert run relies on being at low health even more than this run does, and they aren't using, the expert run doesn't use CL as the main damage dealer, so CL doesn't have our sacrifice, so she can't just set everyone to 1 HP. So instead what expert does is a lot of run into this optional battle, purposely die, send out the secondary party, and then run away. And there's no such thing as a out of battle revive in this game. Any party member who was dead at the end of a battle becomes 1 HP. So you can kind of use that to your advantage and set everyone to 1 HP. But even then, we're not actually like doing the battles in between. We're just using them for utility.
Here's one sort of interesting thing is this guy's blocking our path. So he's intended to be a required fight, but you can just shoot him and then run past.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that exists because the next boss we're about to fight, technically speaking, you can run through the boss. The boss doesn't have any collision. And if you just sit there, run through him while spamming shoot, he'll constantly be stunned and you can just like literally walk through him. But that is not allowed in glitchless. One of the
that's really funny.
Yeah, one of the glitchless rules is like no skipping obviously mandatory battles. Which there's another one that we skip in a less questionable way, which makes you think it's intended to be able to skip, which is why it's allowed. But it's just, it is kind of funny. You have to go draw the line somewhere, so. All right. But yeah, one of the reasons CL is so good as well through this section is it just so happens that the 3 mandatory battles on the Axon Islands, the Maskkeeper fight, well, Visage plus Maskkeeper, as well as the 2 fights here, just so happen to be weak to her dark type, or is it called dark?
I think it's dark.
Yeah, her dark type moves or skills. They just happen to be weak. All 3 of them happen to be weak to it. So her gradient attack is just like a no-brainer. This is the Tissure. This is sort of like the optional boss in this area that by defeating it, you have an easier time on the Axon fight. Dark is not very effective against them. So if we had to fight them, we'd have to have a different strategy through this section. But it's not
just
required.
like with Maskkeeper, it makes the fight easier, and we don't need that.
Yeah. All right. This is Glissando. This is the boss that I was talking about. And some would argue that this boss is harder than Seren, which is the end boss of this area.
Yeah, this attack is it this one or the other one that's kind of a pain to counter?
That one's really tough. The timing for it's pretty awkward.
Take your shot.
This is just free damage.
Yeah. Generally, the jumping attacks are pretty easy to avoid, and then you get a guaranteed response afterwards. So those are kind of nice to see.
Ready.
All right. Yeah, so in the last flag menu I did, Verso learned Powerful, which we saw Gustav had, as well as Leadership. And Leadership is a move that gives your allies a bunch of AP. And so that becomes really good utility. Verso kind of goes from being our burst damage at the beginning of Act 2 to almost being a support role at this point in the run, as well as like through the rest of this section. So it's really interesting how like every character can kind of fill whatever role you need them to. It's just a matter of getting the build in the getting the build to be just right.
Well, while we're stuck on an elevator, do you have 2 seconds for a donation?
Absolutely.
We got $50 from Nickel5 with no comment, but that did go towards the Hollow Knight Absolute Radiance fight. which I'm waiting for it to load. We are getting very close to meeting. So we're at $150 out of the $200 needed for Gaffy to fight Absolute Radiance later. So just $50 more for us to be there. That also put us at $6,200 for the event. So thank you guys so much for all your work. And let's keep going. Let's see if we can make it to our goal of 6531.
We're finally there.
Absolutely. A lot of really cool runs coming up, but today's the final day if I'm not mistaken. So
correct. Yep, last day.
Grander than I thought.
Renee.
All right.
Okay, right.
So this is going to be the Seren fight. Seren, really cool fight. She has a few different HP thresholds where her demeanor in battle will change. And the final one is really cool. Obviously, we're not going to see that. In fact, we're basically not going to see any of them.
Also a boss, really cool.
Yes.
Take your shots. God, I love this game.
No disagreement here. Yeah, so on our first turn, we purposely didn't get her below 3/4 health, I think it is, because she has a different long attack. So she did Dancing with Glissandos, which is always going to happen. And then, I mean, that's basically it. It's really unfortunate. It's such a cool battle, but we just skipped the whole thing. Because we didn't
just too good.
She really is. Because we didn't defeat the Tissior, if it was Seren's turn when she was below, I think it's half health, the Tissior would like add armor to her dress, I think it is, and give her a bunch of shields. So we're able to skip that whole thing because we never gave her a turn below a certain health threshold.
Wow.
All right.
I drank too much last night.
All right, so we have now defeated both of the Axons and have been given the Barrier Breaker weapon. It's a weapon for Mayel. We're going to keep her with the Medallum,
Bunch of drunks.
even though the Barrier Breaker is so much more, like, the power on it is so much higher, just because of the fact that we start in Virtuose stance. Like, that secondary effect of the Medallum is just too strong for us to ignore. So we're going to keep that on her, but because we have the Barrier Breaker, we are able to get into the Monolith and face the Paintress finally. We're about to go face the Paintress. Surely the game is almost over.
Wow, you're looking really good against that estimate.
That's what I'm saying. All right. However, we were saying that we, unfortunately, Minoko's just not quite speedrun material, just, requiring all those Neveron feat, and, it's just tough to make him usable in battle. However, he is, if I add him to the party, he is going to get some use here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. I love Minoko.
He's such a good character.
He's such a good character. His voice actor is actually also absolutely hysterical.
Oh, yeah.
So if you guys like voice actors or anything like that, Rich Keeble, hysterical human being.
He has so many good lines.
He does.
The whole intro to him, that sequence, is phenomenal.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay, I'm in.
Okay, I'm in.
All right. So CL has a way to get her party, like her allies, to low health, but there's no good way to get her to low health.
Oh, you don't know.
So this is kind of like a fake fight. It is meant to be like, you're finally approaching the Paintress, but then she's not actually reacting. So we're going to use this as an opportunity to set CL to 1 HP, and then we use Minoko as the second party member so that way we don't lose the battle, but also he is the slowest party member. He's the only one we haven't put any agility into. And because of that, he only has to skip one turn instead of everyone else having to skip more than one. And
Yeah,
that
so
is the extent of what we use him for.
yeah. So earlier I said that we don't care about the downside of inverted affinity because we actually use this as an upside. The one time it actually matters.
Yeah.
Mael. Up there. She's...
Yeah, it's another thing on the expert run you see a little bit of use for. Like in some of the battles where you're setting up low HP, you'll try to heal yourself or something like that. But
I can sense...
it's a really niche thing. And you have to be really careful because like we had to upgrade our health tint
I guess we head up
at
then.
like some point during the run because by default your health potions only heal, I think it's like 40%. And by upgrading it once it does 65. So the combination of using the move Harvest as well as
I don't know.
the health tint is enough to fully KO her.
Again.
Alright, so we are now running through the Monolith. This is the Monolith Marathon. Because this is quite a long running section. You basically get to like revisit all of the different areas in the game. So like this is Spring Meadows, you can see like the blue trees and stuff. And then after this section, that was pretty good.
Again.
We've got our Flying Waters section.
Teaching her children to paint, huh?
Which is very fun casually to kind of go through these areas again and see the enemies that you were used to fighting a while ago now scaled up and new drops and everything. But we just unfortunately just run past it all.
Yeah. It's kind of funny too because like all of the areas have like these they're enemies that are called Clair Obscure. And it kind of looks like they're meant to be blocking the path. But for all of them you can just run right by them. Like that. So it's again, like Spider said, it's fun casually because you're like revisiting all these areas and every area kind of has like its own end to it. But in the speedrun, we just run straight through.
And somehow this area is just as confusing the second time through as
it really is. It's really funny because when I was first learning the game, I was making, what was that? Anyways, I was making some save files for practice, and pretty much every save file was either before a fight or before a menu before a fight. And the only save file that wasn't like that, I had a Start of Monolith save file, so I could figure out how to actually get through this area. Because there's so much. And it's really easy to get lost. All right. So in this section, we're going to pick up an item for once called Weakness Gain. Weakness Gain is a Pictos that I think gives you an extra AP if you deal super effective damage on somebody. It doesn't matter. We use it entirely for the speed. We don't use the effect of it at all. Then we're getting into the Forgotten Battlefield section, which is one of the toughest movement sections. In addition to the auto rush pickup, I would consider one of the hardest movement sections in the run.
Yeah, because the Clair Obscure enemies you can just move around as you've seen, but this one certainly blocks your path more than the other ones do. So you have to do a little bit of tricky movement to get around it.
Hello?
Oops. We're fine. It was a little bit sketchy, but I think it was actually faster than normal because I didn't get the fall animation. All right. Heading to the Minoko Station section. This area actually has a pretty cool like side boss that I think you can see to the left. This giant ice creature. Yeah, there he is.
Inside her mind. These
Yeah, the
memories.
ice fire creatures that are in this area and the ones like it are very interesting because they have a weakness to ice or a weakness to fire, and then they swap back and forth when they take that damage type. And on my casual build, my main damage output is a very fire-focused Lune build, so I do not like fighting those guys.
All right,
See, the
and then we're
trick
gonna
is-
head. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, see, the trick there is to just one-shot it so you don't have to deal with it.
There's that.
Yes, one-shotting becomes a thing, for sure. All right, I'm gonna do a menu here. I'm gonna check how many recoats I have. I have 4. I am fine. Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. Recoats are random drops. Sometimes enemies will drop them, sometimes they won't. Pretty much the only random drop in the game that's, at least that are relevant to the run. And we need 3 of them during the run. So this is where we have to decide. That right there is a recoat, so I could pick that up if I need it. And then there's 2 in the last section, that like the last area of the game that we can grab as well. Alright. Then we're gonna have a big menu here, and then head into one of the final bosses of the game.
Versa, you okay?
Yeah, fine. Let's keep moving. We're almost at the top.
I never noticed this before, but he goes, we're almost at the top, but everything we do from here is going downstairs.
I think the inside of the monolith is more of a state of mind.
True. Alright, once again, I'm going to do the menu close-ish to the battle. I don't know exactly where the trigger is, so I'm going to do it kind of early in the area, but that way I get the autosave. I know this picture frame on the ground is safe. That. You want that. Alright. So yeah, one of the biggest things that we're doing in that menu is we're making CL incredibly fast. She has all of the speed pictos, we have a ton of agility on her, and we have auto rush on her. You're gonna see in the sidebar, she's actually gonna go twice before Renoir goes once.
This is another big fight where we are doing hit point manipulation. If Renoir gets below half health and he gets a turn, then he will heal up to full and get some new abilities. So we obviously are trying to avoid that.
Alright, here we go.
So be it.
Look at all those 9s.
Normal CL things.
I just saved a minute on my PB somehow there. What happened to my PB? My PB is old enough and like on different route that I just have no idea what it was. Alright, so we've defeated Renoir. We're going to go ahead and face the Paintress. And we gained a recode on that fight. Look at that.
If you needed more.
Yeah.
We're outside.
She's there. I can feel her.
We need to.
All right, this fight isn't too hard, but there's a lot of fanfare involved with a lot of the attacks, so I'm going to probably be pretty quiet during it, so I don't mess up. This. You want SOS?
Yeah, the one good thing in that regard is that all of the attacks are perfectly scripted. We can follow the exact same strategy and we'll get the exact same results each time. But yeah, there's a lot of potential hits that you need to be parrying or dodging, because we are entering the fight with 1 HP on everyone, so there's no room for error.
We have 3 total HP.
But we do have Minoko in the back, so
True.
Something goes wrong. Actually, having everyone at 1 HP is kind of nice for one thing, because if something does go wrong, it's normally pretty fast to just wipe in that because of that. And in one of the patches, they added a fast way to retry fights. So if something goes wrong, you can just redo it that way.
Alright, we are purposely not going to finish her off on this attack, and instead going to send it to phase 2 on a counter. It skips a really long animation in phase 2.
Supposed to be
That is phase 1.
thinks I would not defend myself if he used your face. How little he understands me.
Good.
Yeah, unfortunately this final series of attacks is the hardest one to do, to avoid.
His voice is still alive.
I almost was too late on that last one.
You were even going for the parries.
Yeah, you don't have to. I'm just so used to it.
I was definitely dodging those. Just because of the... I don't know if we ever actually mentioned that there's a larger frame window if you're dodging instead of parrying.
Oh yeah, we didn't say that. You're outmatched. I used the wrong move.
Take your shot.
Okay.
I'm not crazy. I know exactly what
I went to use Defiant Strike and I used it where it is on Expert, not on...
Okay, so this is the long animation we were skipping before.
Let's see if I still remember how to do this attack.
He seeks to use my creations against me.
I should counter it.
Nice.
2k damage. And now CL didn't go, so this will be fun.
Careful now.
course, she's the first one, so.
I've lived through worse. Got
Someone's gonna send her. All right, there we go. I didn't want to use spells or skills because they have like longer animations, but
They go down eventually.
yeah. So yeah, that is the Paintress fight. I did butcher it a little bit at the end there, but it's the only 3-phase fight in the run. And after it, you get this giant lore dump,
Come along now.
as you tend to do in an RPG. It doesn't feel, I think, as egregious as some lore dumps, but it is, like, if you watch every cutscene, it's a good, like, 30, 45 minutes worth of stuff.
And here we just skip like 6 cutscenes in a row.
Yeah, we skip 6 cutscenes there, and we're going to skip 5 after this dialogue section.
Our parent, he.
But essentially, if you're this far in the run, you probably either don't care too much about spoilers or know the story. But to basically summarize, without getting too into the weeds,
Good.
we learn that the world that we are living in is actually a painting, and the paintress was a grieving mother. And she actually was the one who was trying to keep everyone alive, as opposed to being the one gamaging everybody that we learned at the start. And in fact, the curator is the father, and he was the one basically trying to destroy the canvas to get the mother out of the canvas so she can live her normal life. We also learned that Mael is actually the daughter, even though she was like a painted being.
Why would he
There were circumstances involved, and she actually is the daughter of the family. So this cutscene up here is her and her father,
He'll want you to go home.
basically, you know, reconciling, and then Mael wants to remain in the canvas, wants the canvas to exist, wants to bring everyone back, and her father does not want that. So that is essentially what the final fight is going to be.
Are you?
Which is a little oddly set up in Act 3, in that it's basically the only required fight. And so you can, which is what we'll do because this is the speed run, but we will go straight from the Act 2 boss to the Act 3 boss.
Thanks for.
There's a number of things that we have to do, including a lot of running.
Yes.
But at its core, that's all we're doing in Act 3, actually.
Yeah. And it's also, it's one of those things that
We have to.
if you were to do all of the Act 3 content before fighting the final boss, I guess, slight spoiler if you've not done that, you will be incredibly disappointed with the final boss because of how easy he is compared to some of the bosses that you will face, you know, out in the world in Act 3.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there was some things that they intended to be Act 3, and there's some things they intended to be post-game, but there's no clear distinction at all between those two categories. And so if you are doing stuff on the continent, you will just end up being too overleveled for the final Act 3 boss.
It's kind of weird too, because like there isn't a true post-game in this game. If you load your save after beating the game, it brings you back to right before the final boss. So it's you know, it's kind of a way to like do things in post-game, but you're not continuing. Like the game does end when you beat the final boss. So yeah, so we are back in Lumiere. This is the town that we started in. And basically, oh god, what happens here? So Renoir, our father, brings all of his Neverons from the Axon Islands and everything to basically prevent us from bringing back all the people that have been gamaged. We have summoned basically all of the past expeditioners because we learned that we are also a painter, so we can do that. And so that's what all these like little mini battles on the side are. It's our expeditioners against their Neverons and stuff. There are some of these battles you can also do yourself, but that's kind of the battlefield that's happening. And we didn't mention it, but after you defeat the Paintress, you get the Painted Power Pictos, which up to this point we have been restricted to dealing 9999 damage or less. But with Painted Power, we gain the ability to do more than that. And it is not like, oh, now we can do 100,000 damage. It is uncapped. Which may or may not have been a mistake.
Yeah, there's, at the flags, you have the option of self-enforcing a cap, but there's no reason to do that, so...
Yeah.
Even casually, it doesn't make sense to turn that on most of the time.
Some people were asking for challenge run items, if I remember the actual reasoning correct. A lot of people were like, hey, can you add this since you already had it technically, just make it so I can do it whenever I want. So instead of being stuck at 99, you can do a slider bar for challenging stuff. Casual things.
Okay. Alright. So we talked a little bit about current patch versus down patching throughout the run. The big thing is actually on this final fight. When the game released, there was a particular move of Mael's that dealt a lot of damage, like an obscene amount of damage. And it was nerfed. It was nerfed by about 40%. And that is essentially the difference between current patch and down patching. So because I'm on current patch, I have the nerfed version of the attack, and I'm going to have to do a bit more setup. Which is why if you were to go to like the PC leaderboards and you look at the record, you will see a very different version of this fight. I basically ripped the way that this fight's going to work from the expert run. The expert actually runs on current patch. You can down patch, but it does not save nearly as much time as it does on story.
Let's go.
But we'll talk about that strategy when we get there. First, there is a flag in this upcoming area that we need to do quite a bit of menuing at. And this is where all of our recoats come into play.
Papa is somewhere past the gardens.
Yeah, to get an idea of how much damage that attack actually does, we just only put 12 into Mael's strength. And the skill is going to carry us the rest of the way.
Yes. Alright, so there. And then you need to recode, and we're going to go the complete opposite side of the skill tree for CL. I did the weapon out of order, but that's fine. Okay. And then we need to remove you, add you. You want auto rush, you want painted power, you want immaculate, you want critical moment. We don't want energizing start, we do want first strike. Okay. Alright, so what we're gonna do here is there is a boss here at the end of the path. Sometimes it spawns, sometimes it doesn't. You always get the battle trigger, but sometimes it's just invisible. The last two runs I did, it's actually been invisible, which is kind of funny. This time it's not, which is fine. But a weird quirk of this boss is there is a flee option. It is not mandatory. You can run away from it. So what we're going to do is we're going to set Mael to 1 HP by using Last Chance. We're going to use Intervention with CL, which gives Mael an immediate turn, and then we're going to flee. And because CL has so much agility, she actually got to go twice, and that allows us to flee away. And now we're going to go into the final fight, but not before adding Verso, changing our party order a little bit.
Chroma we need to bring back Lumia.
I think I wrote down the explanation of this fight. Spider, do you want to take it so I can focus on it?
We better make sure
sure.
we're ready.
I think I explained it in the notes.
Yeah, so basically we're... Parse this again.
Yeah. It's complicated, so...
Yeah, so we're doing our standard thing where we're boosting Mael with as much as we can to just have her do lots of damage. But the interesting thing here is that we want to make sure that we, in addition to having Mael take out the boss, to do all that much damage, we actually don't want to beat him on that hit, because we want Mael to go again as soon as we hit the second phase of the fight. Because the reason why is that there is a cutscene where the boss will get a big Omni boost, but that only happens on his turn. Did I say that accurately?
Yeah, you did. And it's one of those things, he will get a turn interjected, even if it's not supposed to be his turn. The main difference here is we finished off phase 1 with a gradient attack, which means we're still in Mael's turn. And so because of that, he doesn't get his turn interjected immediately. We get to finish our turn. And this Omni Boost gives him Shell, which is the main issue, which is the defense boost. And so we wouldn't actually be able to KO him through the Shell. So we really want to get the hit in before this happens. He is dead at this point. He's not going to get to go, but the cutscene still happens. So.
Yeah, and so that is the final boss, and that's what Painted Power allows us to do. Which is really funny compared to some of the other ones.
And we are, it's also worth mentioning, we are significantly under-leveled from what you're probably expected to be at this point. Like, we are level 32, 31, something like that for this fight. And I want to say most people probably beat the game around level 50, if not higher, so... and then, yeah, so we have one final fight. Essentially, Verso actually does want to destroy the canvas. Mael does not. So we get to decide the fate of the canvas. We are going to pick the Mael ending because Mael's already sort of beefed up to be the main damage dealer. And so in this one-on-one battle, we are going to use her. And time will be when this battle ends, which, spoiler, is a single turn. And that is time.
GG.
GG. A little bit rough, but I think I want to say the only damage I took in the run was the duelist fight, which was while I was talking, which I normally wouldn't do. So I'm going to consider it damageless. You know what? You can't stop me.
It was a very fast reload. It didn't happen.
It was
actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the run. It's a really cool run. I didn't talk about it a whole lot during the run, but there are glitched categories as well. There's 2 of them. There's a restricted category, which kind of, well, there's an unrestricted category, which allows absolutely everything. And then there's a restricted category, which like bans a couple of glitches. But there's really something for everyone. If you're interested at all in this game, I definitely recommend it. This is the kind of game I started playing because I had heard of the game last year and was like, oh yeah, I remember this game. I saw it came out. I was a couple weeks late, and I got maybe 3 hours in, and I was like, I want to speedrun this game, and I kind of blitzed through the game at that point. So yeah, I can't recommend it enough. And yeah, I just want to, I guess, thanks Speed Docs for having me. Thank you, Spider, for sitting with me for 2 hours and commentating a game that you knew nothing about. Well, you knew nothing about like a month ago. You have learned quite a bit. And yeah.
Well, thank you both for being here with us. Thank you for showing off one of the best games ever, in my opinion. I love this game so much. I'm very happy I get to be here with you guys to watch it. And we really appreciate it. Don't go anywhere, folks. We will be back shortly with more speed docs and our next run, which is going to be Spyro Reignited.